Hello, my name is Matt Gause of Gause Garage, and I am here to talk to you about a little bit of automotive history. I come from the car business, and the reason why you might want to listen to this is because it concerns all of the cars we drive today. This is not a comprehensive video, but it's interesting nonetheless because it involves probably the car you're driving right now, and definitely the car I'm driving right now. We all drive cars here in America because of our large land mass. Um, we all have cars. That's the reality in America. In Europe, which I've lived over there, many people do not own a car because all of Western Europe fits inside of Texas. Not everyone needs a car. They can use a lot of public transportation, which Europe has done a very good job there. Anyway, let's get started. Um, Here in America, we hear about Henry Ford and his son Edsel. With Ford Motor Company, the first mass production. We all know the story, blah blah blah. But actually, the story of the automobile starts with the person who owns the patent on the ice. Okay, I'm not talking about ice that you have in your drink. I'm talking about the internal combustion engine. And the person that has that patent on it is Dr. Nicholas Otto, from Germany. He was born in 1832, and basically what he did is, as automobiles were starting to roll out and they started developing engines instead of he put the patent on the first internal combustion engine. He wasn't necessarily the inventor, but he was the first one to patent it. And his first real customer was Daimler in Germany, which is actually Mercedes Benz. So, anyway, um, along with that, we'll just go on with that. But I just want to, as a side note, uh, his great, I don't know how many greats are in there. His great grandson lives here in the state of Florida. His last name is Otto. He is in the family of Dr. Nicholas Otto, the people that hold the patent on the internal combustion engine. He was born in Germany. He's a German national. He's an American citizen. He lives here in Florida. And I'm not going to divulge his name for privacy reasons, but it was his family. And guess what? This guy is a big time car guy. So, okay. Um, the next up on the automotive history is, of course, Henry Ford and his son, Edsel Ford. But I'm also going to bring up a couple other names. Okay, there's Henry Leland and Wilfred Leland. Okay, these are both father and sons, Henry and Edsel, and Henry and Wilfred. So Henry Leland actually developed a luxury car company during the luxury market with his son Wilfred, and it was referred to as Cadillac. Henry Leland created the Cadillac brand, and it was a very strong brand here in America, as you well know, and many of you are driving it. Okay, Henry Ford, well, and his son, later Edsel. Henry developed the mass production process with everything in house, factories up in Dearborn, Michigan, and these were the pioneers of the industry. Okay, now we're going to bring up some other names: Willy Brandt and Walter P. Chrysler. Okay, who is Willy Brandt? Willy Brandt was a automotive magnate. He created a company called General Motors. And what Willy Brandt did is he was a big player on the New York Stock Exchange. He was a huge player. He built his fortune in the automotive business, but he was also equally as supporting the market, like one of the pioneers of the stock market back then, one of the manipulators. But you can look that up on Google. Anyway, Willy Brandt put together General Motors. And what he did is he acquired Chevrolet from its owner, Louis Chevrolet. If you've never heard of Louis Chevrolet, that is the creator of Chevrolet brand. Well, Willy Brandt took Chevrolet, he took Pontiac, he took and then forced Henry Leland, who was in basically receivership. He was in bad financial condition. He went and forced Henry Leland out of Cadillac and added the Cadillac brand to the GM brand. So what we're talking about is the formation of GM back in those days, it was basically Willy Brandt taking Henry Leland out of his company. So um, let's fast forward to Willy Brandt. Willy Brandt, when he formed the GM Corporation, he hired a young guy that came was originally a train engineer, and his name was Walter P. Chrysler. And Walter P. Was a crack mechanic, but he also showed a very good strength of managing people and organizer. Like a corporate guy. So, uh, just as a side note, Walter P. Chrysler, when he was a young man, this is a true story. When he was a young man, working on the trains as a mechanic, like apprentice and working up as through the train industry, his parents got their first automobile. Remember, these were very early when the automobiles were really new to the American experience. So Walter P. Chrysler took his parents' new automobile. He took it apart 3 times and put it back together just to see how it was made. So you get an idea of Walter Chrysler and where he came from as a train engineer, a mechanic. But then when he was recruited by Willy Brandt into the GM line, yes, Walter P. Chrysler cut his teeth in the auto industry as an executive with the new GM brand. And they noticed that Walter P. Chrysler showed a very significant strength in turning companies around. He became the turnaround man. Like if a company was struggling in receivership, Walter P. Chrysler was able to go in, restructure the debt, revamp the line, redesign their automobiles, invigorate sales, and actually turn the company around. And as a matter of fact, take a guess. What was the first company in the GM line that Walter P. Chrysler turned around? Does anybody know? It's Buick. I know. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. Buick was out of business. They had stodgy old models. Nobody wanted them. They were over in debt. They were basically in receivership. Well, Walter P. redesigned their cars, structured the debt, and basically turned them around. And that's what Willy Brandt started actually putting Walter P. Chrysler in charge of these turnarounds. Well, and as an aside, in right around 1924, he was making about 500. Walter P. Chrysler was making about $500,000 a year, and that's pre-taxes. Um, that's a lot of money back then. So he started his own company with a company that he did not turn around. It was called Maxwell or Maxwell Chalmers. And in the 1925 Chicago World's Fair, Walter P. Chrysler showed up with a modified Maxwell, and that was the first Chrysler. So, okay, let's keep moving on. Um, Henry Leland, remember him? He's the guy that started Cadillac, and because Cadillac was struggling financially, remember, Willy Brandt came with GM and forced him out of his own company. So, what did Henry and his son Wilfred do? Henry was a patriotic man. He was German. His son's name is Wilfred. Okay, duh, German. But they were patriotic Americans. They were captains of the industry. They were very strong. And uh, what Henry Leland decided to do after he was forced out of his own company of Cadillac, he went and started a car company named after his favorite president. And what was born was the Lincoln Motor Company. Yes, Lincoln. What most people don't realize is that Cadillac and Lincoln were created by the same guy, Henry Leland and his son Wilfred. So let's fast forward. He's into Lincoln. Henry Leland owns a museum with the most personal items of the President Abraham Lincoln of anyone in the United States. That's how big of a fan he was, and that's why he named the Lincoln Motor Company after President Abraham Lincoln. Well, as the time went on, Henry Leland, owner of Lincoln, was in failing health and the company was suffering. And guess who shows up? Okay, you got a father and son, Henry and Wilfred Leland, owner of Lincoln. And who shows up? Father and son, Henry Ford and his son Edsel. And they purchased Lincoln Motor Company from Henry Leland and his son Wilfred. So they cashed them out, and that is how Lincoln Motor Company came into the Ford lineup. So that concludes our little automotive history lesson. Google it, look it up, let me know if I've made any mistakes, and there you have it, folks. I hope that was interesting for you. Thank you very much. Gause Garage.